So now let's get to the young guys. First thing that I want to talk about is Brett Baty. Now, after struggling for a majority of the year, the Mets have optioned third base prospect Brett Baty down to AAA Syracuse. This season, the 23-year-old third baseman is slashing 216, 289, 331 with 7 home runs, 27 RBIs, and a 77 WRC plus in 311 plate appearances. Mets manager Buck Showalter expressed the demotion as just a little timeout, kind of a take a breath mentally, emotionally. Just let him work on some things without the day-to-day. Along with the offensive struggles, Baty has also taken that to the field as well with a negative 4.1 defensive run value and a negative 8 defensive run save in 647.1 innings at third base.
We saw what happened last year. He got called up, and as we know, started off great in the big home run against the Atlanta Braves. And then, we had the whole thing with him and Alvarez getting sent down to start off the year and then getting called back up. It worked really well for Francisco Alvarez, hit a ton of home runs. He's here to stay, not getting sent back down. But for Brett Baty, I think that now they're in a mode like where they're rebuilding, they're tanking, and things like that. And for him to not be a part of that on the major league roster on an everyday basis is kind of surprising to me. And then the fact that he goes back to minor leagues and all of a sudden is hitting home runs again is just very confusing. I mean, you could talk about the hitting coach, this, that, and the other, but to me, eventually something has to be said to the mental makeup. Are you cut out for this? And now we were of the belief that, okay, third base is going to be taken care of for the future. Once again, we're not 100% sure if the Mets are solid at third base. And that's a position, we talked about all different graveyards that the Mets have had over the year. We've talked about catcher, we've talked about center field. Ever since David Wright, there's been a third base graveyard. And I don't want that to continue and start all over again. So the Mets, this is something that I think is going to be one of the most important decisions to be made in the offseason. Are you going to trust Brett Baty, or are you going to get a big-time third baseman, or are you going to go the Escobar route of a veteran to battle Brett Baty again? I mean, I'm very curious to see what the Mets decide to do. Are you going to have Mauricio play third? There's a lot of things that they've got to figure out there, because I think for him to get sent down tells you how the Mets feel about him right now. The confidence level is not high because, like I always say, if you want the players to develop, it needs to be on the major league level. That's what they're going to be facing. Those are the adjustments they need to make. Those are the reps that they have to do. And I think the thing about Brett Baty is that hit the ball on the ground a ton. We knew that was a flaw at one point in his, coming up in the minor leagues. Looked like he fixed it. All of a sudden, the ball's back on the ground again. And what concerns me about Brett Baty is that he doesn't have redeeming qualities. Not a good defensive third baseman, not good on the bases. So it's like, if he's not hitting the ball in the air or line drives, what is he really doing for you? He's not doing much. And so even if he does hit, okay, he's not a great third baseman. So I'm not of the belief that, oh my gosh, he has to be our third baseman at all. I'm like, listen, when they had the trade, they could have got a young pitcher for the Marlins, whether it was Edward Cabrera or just some kind of young arm for the Marlins. Something they could use right now. I mean, we have all these other prospects coming up. We could use young pitching. So if a young pitcher is on the move and you can get Brett Baty, a little swap, I'd really consider it. And then we've talked about Matt Chapman for years now. It's something that, once again, is something that has to be a serious discussion, because I think it's just been an overall very disappointing season. Because are we going to do the whole call him up, send him down, call him up, send him down thing again? You could only do that so many times. And again, you don't want to make matters worse, and you don't want to mess up Brett Baty, mental makeup even more than it already has. No more damage that's already been done. So it's been a disappointing season for him. I hope that he turns it around next year and that he is our third base for the future. Because like I was saying before, you want young, controllable players all around the field like the way the Atlanta Braves do. I mean, that's what I want to see this Mets team have. But right now, the questions have to still be answered when it comes to Brett Baty.
This should be the end of the third base regime, and I think that's already started, because we saw the report that Ronnie's playing third majority of the time, or 2 days a night, 2 in third, 2 games at short, 2 games at second. Brett's going to become an outfielder at this point, because, like you said, defensively, yeah, there's a klutz. And for the team, it would make sense if now he becomes an outfielder. Let's say you go after a Chapman or pick. There really isn't any other great free agent third baseman out there. You got your Jeimer Candelario level guys, but that's really about it. If it's not Chapman, or if it's Ronnie, again, if you're going in the Ronnie or maybe Baby Acuna, Ronnie, because then Acuna can play second, or Jeff McNeil, because I saw that was an idea now being float backed around, and it would kind of give you a bridge to a Ryan Clifford or the other, again, Acuna potentially moving to center, Nimble continuing to play left field now. Brett potentially in a corner because, like you said, the defense has been awful. And we kind of knew this eventually. The defense, we thought if it's Alec Boehm, we'd take it and then probably ends up in the outfield at some point. That was what we thought. We hope it wouldn't be, year 1.5. We would have hoped, year 4 or 5, then move him to shift him to the outfield full time. But, yeah, he's not hitting for any type of power anymore. Again, the ground ball rate problems are back. And like I said, it's funny, as soon as you send him down, 2 homers. Like, he's already hitting back homers, and you can get the crappy, the hitting guru that he has now has been elevated from AA to AAA and got him to pull the ball more. I'm all about narratives, and this is a narrative that's going to go right to Carson's heart. And the Mets could have done it, 2.0 of this. You had a top prospect. This is in the outfield. You had a great, show some promise first year. Second year sucked and got sent back down. You had a top prospect, got elevated. Why was this not a Mauricio for Baty swap like it was Conforto with Nimmo? I don't understand how that was possible, where you had a guy who can play third, play second again. If you want to put Jeffrey at third, try that experiment again. Like it didn't work when he was younger. Let's put the older version of Jeffrey at third base. And the fact that you could have given Mauricio a shot, let Brett just, there's no other top prospects. Just you in Syracuse. Nobody's really watching as Ronnie would be up. And all the attention would be back there to go and hit. But yeah, at this point, he's probably an outfielder. And again, the outfield depth, like we said, Canner's gone, Pham's gone. As of right now, the outfield is Starling Marte decides to stay healthy, which we all know that's not possible. Brandon Nimmo and DJ Stewart's a free agent, so it's either him and left or Gilbert's not coming up. And there's no Cedrola. Is Cedrola still under team control? And again, it would kind of give a stopgap for, again, like a Drew Gilbert or, the guys in Binghamton take another jump because there's nobody in Syracuse outfield-wise. They just DFA'd out Abraham Almonte. So there's no AAA guys, and it would kind of see, can he play the outfield? Because we know third base is not the issue. And the offensive problems, ground ball rates back. Hate to see it. But hey, at this point, Jeremy Barnes might just need to die and make that hitting guru that guy, the head coach for the Mets, because Barnes ain't doing shit either. So, again, it's disappointing, but he was a dick in Kansas City, so, fuck him.
Here's the problem here. And when I look at Brett Baty and why I've been so upset with what I've seen from him is because out of all of the prospects that we have up here, this was supposed to be your advanced player. This was supposed to be your advanced hitter, 23 years old, older than the usual prospect. We wanted him to get the everyday third base job at the beginning of the year because Eduardo Escobar was brutal. He still is brutal while he is in LA right now because Escobar is not a good player. And then all of a sudden, when Escobar gets traded, Baty slips into the third base job every single day, gets the chance to play, and then performs like this. So all of a sudden, it seems like he needs Eduardo Escobar here in order to produce somehow. If that's the whole situation, then we're going to have a problem. First round pick. Everyone doesn't like to talk about draft stock. I do. It comes with expectation. He's been here. He's gotten 300 plate appearances this year. He got some plate appearances last year. We've seen a good enough sample of him, but we have seen a good enough sample of Brett Baty in order to make a judgment of what he looks like at the major league level. And what we've seen so far, it sucked. He has been so bad overall. This guy cannot pull a fucking baseball. His bat speed is terrible. He can't hit a high fastball. The low pitches, he can't even reach anymore. I don't know what the hell happened to this guy's bat speed that he was displaying in spring training. High profile velocity. Shit is gone right now. So I don't give a shit what the hell he does in AAA. It's like Frank just said, the way that he can develop as a major league player is play as a major league player. When he played as a major league player, he didn't do anything. He didn't take the job and run with it like Francisco Alvarez did. And I understand he's still young. There's still a ceiling here. He still can reach that potential, of course. But this whole ground ball thing, this has been a problem throughout his entire baseball career. High school, lower levels of the minor leagues. If he's homering in AAA, great. AAA pitching sucks. AAA pitching worse than our bullpen. right now. The baseballs are so juiced. The arms are so washed. That's how bad AAA pitching is right now. They got to figure that out, obviously. That's a different story. And what I'm still seeing from this guy is, yeah, he pulled one homer, 80-mile-an-hour changeup, and then he goes to opposite field. Everything else goes to the opposite field as well. Like, I don't understand how you think that you can be a successful hitter these days against high-profile velocity by swinging late. How can you do that? Please tell me how you can do that. If you can explain how you can just use the opposite field and be a great hitter, that's not going to work. And I understand a lot of scouts have talked about Brett Baty a lot and saying, well, pulling the ball is just not his thing. Well, that's not going to work. If he can't pull a baseball, then he is not going to be a successful player. You have a few anomalies in baseball, but I don't see him being one of those anomalies. Like, listen, I understand if he's not going to display that full power immediately. But with that bat speed, you should not be late on every fastball. And the guy doesn't use his lower half. He doesn't use his lower half at all. It's like Vogelbach. He's all arms. That's literally it. He's just all arms. They put a lot into thinking that Brett Baty can do something. We've seen a good enough sample, and he has not performed. I see nothing. I really see nothing. Overall, him as a defender, him as a hitter, I see nothing. I'm sorry. I just see nothing in Brett Baty.